Hello, and welcome to Steffoodle. I am, introspectively, Steph. And what better way to kick off the year than with an anime collab with my doll friends? But more on that at the end of the video. I wasn't sure at first which character I wanted to make, but then I finally sat down and watched Frieren Beyond Journey's End, which started last season and is currently ongoing. And I just knew I had to make Frieren. I'll talk more about the show later on in the video, but for now, let's get to the doll. I'll be using the body of this petite made-to-move Barbie, and the head and feet of this Creatable World doll. I do my usual prep, removing the heads, removing the hair, and cleaning off the factory face with acetone. I decided to start with her staff. I found this image that I'm pretty sure was for a clear file, but it had a clear view of Frieren next to her staff. I blew it up so that the image of Frieren matches the height the doll will be, more or less, and lowered the opacity and printed it out. I trace over the lines of the staff using a circle template and a ruler to make my guide more clear. This will help me make sure that the staff is at the right scale. I cut 2 each of the circular shapes out of worbla. I attach one side to the guide with double-sided tape. Next, I use super glue to attach the 3 spokes, which are cut down sewing pins, as I thought they'd be a bit more sturdy than wire. Then I glue a small piece of plastic cut from doll packaging to the middle of the central circle. This is going to provide me with a base for later when I'll be adding resin for the gem. After the glue is dry, I can heat up the other worbla pieces and place them on top, sandwiching in the spokes in the clear plastic, as well as a bamboo skewer for the length of the staff. I also made some of the decorative elements of the staff with worbla. And now it's time for clay. I mix parts A and B together and get to work building up the shapes. I use water to smooth things out as I go. I let it cure overnight, then I sand down any lumps and bumps. And then I mask off the plastic at the center so I can prime it. Now I can start painting. I first painted the top of the staff with iridescent gold acrylic paint, but it was a bit too dark and too flashy, so I mixed the gold with some white and painted over it again. I paint the length of the staff red, and the decorations black, then metallic gold. I seal in most of the paint with matte Mod Podge and add gloss varnish to the metallic gold parts. Now I can peel off the masking tape because it's time for resin. I mix UV resin with some gold mica powder and a little bit of clear red acrylic paint. I carefully fill the center circle with the resin and sprinkle some red glitter on top. Then I cure it with my UV lamp, and I repeat this process on the other side. As the color was skewing a bit orange because I added too much gold mica, I mixed up some resin with just a bit of the clear red paint for my second layer. I don't have any round gold beads, so I painted this pearl bead gold and gave it a layer of gloss varnish. I used super glue to attach a ribbon. Once dry, I wrap the ribbon around and tie it in a knot. I dab on a bit of tacky glue to keep it in place. I use an embroidery needle to thread the bead onto the ribbon. And use some more tacky glue to secure it. Then I trim off the excess ribbon at an angle. The gem still looks a bit orangey compared to the ribbon, so I decided to paint on a layer of the clear red acrylic paint, and it looks so much better. And that's the staff done! On to clothing, starting with her black leggings. I first sew the crotch seam, then I hem the waist and the bottoms of the legs. Next, I sew up the back seam, and finally, I can sew the inseam. And they're done! The simplest garment ever. Next up, and not so simple, is the dress. I used some hem tape to attach this gold suede border to the skirt. Off camera, I'll hem it and add some decorative stitching. Here's the center front. I hem the top using hem tape, then I can sew on these black suede stripes. Next, I can sew the side pieces of the bodice to the center front and hem the rest of the neckline. Time to attach the sleeves! Then, I can fold everything over and sew up the side seams. To make the cuffs, I need to sew these 3 pieces together. I also need to make the little loop that holds the cuff in place. I cut a base out of the brushed cotton I'm using for the body of the dress, and use hem tape to attach some of the gold suede to it. Next, I hem it with a felling stitch so you can't see the stitches on the right side. Then I can add a decorative back stitch around the edge. I had to make a couple of adjustments to the cuffs as the stripes turned out too thick at first, but it was an easy fix, and I hemmed the top of the cuffs as well. Now I can attach the loop at the bottom of the cuff, and then sew up the side seam. And I'm left with this. I marked where on the sleeve I need to attach them, then sew the cuffs to the sleeves with a whip stitch, wrong side to wrong side. That way, once I flip the bodice right side out and fold the cuff up, none of my seams will be showing. And here we are! Off camera, I also sewed the loops into place along with these tiny red and gold buttons. I'm still amazed this worked. Now I can attach the skirt. For her belt, I have this faux leather strip and this teeny silver buckle. I feed the buckle onto the strip and cut a small hole so I can get the little prong through. But I realized that I should probably close up the back of the dress and see if I need to make any adjustments before I sew on the belt. After doing that and trying it on the doll, I needed to take it in at the bust a bit. So I did that and added snap closures. And now I can sew on the belt. And here's the dress all done! Next up is her capelet. I put this together in pretty much the same way I did with her dress. I added the gold suede trim first, then hemmed it with a felling stitch, and added some decorative stitching. I forgot to show you a close-up of the skirt, but here's what it looks like on the capelet. Then I can sew up the shoulder seams. For the collar, I take a piece of the brushed cotton and I'll sew on the suede border with a blanket stitch. I also went ahead and added the little button. Now I can wrap the suede around the edges and secure it to the back with a felling stitch. Then I can attach the collar to the capelet. I make the little straps on the shoulders in the same way I made the cuff loops. I added a snap closure, but I think it's a little chonky, so I'll replace it with Velcro. I'll also add the straps to the shoulders, hiding the shoulder seams, and add more decorative buttons. And here's the finished capelet. I am terrible at making shoes from scratch, so I decided to use these Creatable World rain boots as a base. At first I was just going to paint them and then add the details, but I knew I could do better than that, so I ended up covering them with some brown stretch suede. I made a few straps out of the suede as well using hem tape, and glued them on with some all-purpose glue. I painted the soles, the top edge, and part of the inside of the boots dark brown, so none of the yellow would show. I sealed the paint with matte Mod Podge. And finally, I glued on a couple more strips to act as the loops that you pull your boots on with. I'm not sure what they're called. Let me look that up. Pulls, apparently. Or ear pulls. Interesting. And now the boots are done. Speaking of ears, Frieren is an elf, so she needs some pointy ones. I decided to cut some base pieces from worbla. I heated them up and pressed them onto the backs of the ears. Then I mix up some more clay and shape the ears over several passes. I think that having the worbla base really helped in keeping them like the same size and shape. Once the clay is cured, I carefully sand them to smooth out any rough parts. Then I pop them off the head so I can prime and paint them. I seal the paint in with some matte varnish. I put the new head on the body, then I attach the ears with super glue. The color match isn't perfect, but I'll fix that during the face up. Now I can give the head a couple of coats of Mr. Super Clear UV Cut Flat, waiting 30 minutes in between each layer. While I work on her face with my watercolor pencils, let me tell you about Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I'm not going to spoil anything beyond the first 20 minutes or so, because honestly, I really want you to experience it for yourself. Imagine a fantasy world, and a band of adventurers on their quest to defeat the Demon King. So you've got Himmel, a human swordsman and the leader of the party, Heider, a human priest, Eisen, a dwarven barbarian, I think he's a barbarian, and Frieren, an elven mage. And one thing of note is that because Frieren is an elf, and elves are rare in this world at this point, her lifespan is much longer than any of her party members, even Eisen being a dwarf, but especially her human teammates. And they had been traveling together for 10 years at this point. And they're celebrating. They've already killed the Demon King. It's done. That adventure is over before the show has even started. And as they're celebrating, they notice that it's the night of this meteor shower that happens once every 50 years. And they all sort of remark that it's hard to see with the lights of the town, you know, because of light pollution, all that. I mean, they don't say light pollution, but that's what it is. And Frieren says, I know a place. Basically. I'll take you there next time. And I'm pretty sure it's Himmel who says, like, yeah, but that's in 50 years. And she's like, yeah, I know. I'll take you there next time. It'll be fine. Basically. And as I said, time moves differently for her. So at the end of this night of revelry and everything, the party goes their separate ways. Frieren decides to go and find more magic, because her hobby is finding spells and learning new spells. So she does that. She travels around. You see a little montage. And finally she goes, it's time to head back. It's just about time for the meteor shower again. So she heads back to the town where Himmel has stayed. And he's old now. He's a little old man. And Heider is older too. And Eisen is not as visibly older, but he is older. So they set out for this spot that she knows for the meteor shower. They're like, aren't we leaving a little bit early to get to this spot? And she's like, oh, it's 7 days walk from here. So they all travel as a group again for the first time in 50 years. And you see, again, a little montage of them like making their way through forest and across fields. And you know, they finally get to this hill and they're all sitting or laying down and watching the meteor shower. And Himmel is like thinking to himself, thank you for this one last adventure. And yeah, Himmel dies. The hero dies. That is not a spoiler. This is the premise of the show. Just to say that. This is, again, within the first like 20 minutes. And they're at his funeral, and at first, you know, Frieren's taking it in stride until they're covering Himmel's coffin with dirt. And then Frieren breaks. And she's like, why didn't I get to know him better? And from there, Frieren decides to get to know humans better. And I will leave it at that. But, you know, there's a whole new journey, a new party that she forms, and new adventures to be had. And it's made me cry, this show, more than once. And it's made me feel feelings, and that's how I know it's a good show. It's a good story. And gosh, I could gush on about it for so long, but really, I don't want to, because I don't want to ruin any of it for you. So please, if this at all sounds like an interesting premise to you, please go and watch this show. It's gorgeous, and it's beautifully animated. It's really well written. It's very touching. It's both heart-wrenching and heartwarming. And, you know, not only do you get to see her current adventures, but it does flashback, so you do get to see some of her time with her previous party, and also some of her time before, and how she became the mage that she is. So, yeah. Please go watch this show. It is very good. I am also, when this current season is done, going to start picking up the manga, because I need more. I need to read it. Yeah, it's my new favorite thing. And would you look at that? Her face is done. I made these wefts off camera, mixing some white yarn with a bunch of wefts I had left over from way back when I made Ryoko from Tenshi Muyo. I ended up with this light bluish silver. I start by gluing on most of the wefts for her fringe, and then I start to work on the pigtails since the part extends into her fringe, and I wanted it to look seamless. You know what? Let's speed this up a bit. There we go. Now I just need to cut and style her fringe. And with the help of a lot of water and hairspray, it's done. And she looks so good! The last thing she needs are her earrings. I decided to make them out of UV resin, so back when I was working on the staff and I had the resin mixed with the clear red paint, I dipped in some thread and cured it under my UV lamp. I repeated this a few times to make a teardrop shape. It's not perfect, far from it, but it'll do. I wanted them to be a bit more red, so I painted them with the clear red paint, then gave them a coat of gloss varnish. I made a pattern for the gold parts of her earrings and traced it onto the back of some gold vinyl. I used a needle to pull the ends of the thread through the middle of each earring and glued the thread in place. Once dry, I cut out the shapes. I colored the edges of the fabric with gold Posca pen and let them dry. Now I can carefully glue them onto her ears. And there we are. Now we have our doll, her leggings, her dress, her capelet, her boots, and her staff. All that's left to do is get her dressed, and she's done. I had a really hard time working on this doll. I was completely burnt out after making my holiday Barbie, and my brain was not playing nice. But I love this show so much, and I'm so proud that I was able to bring Frieren to life in my own way. There were a few more props that I wanted to make, but I just didn't have time. So I will be making a follow-up video in the next few weeks or so for those, so keep an eye out for that. What do you think of my Frieren doll? Are you watching the anime, or will you, after my recommendation? Also, do you have any current anime recommendations for me? I used to keep up with seasonal anime a lot more, but I've fallen off a bit lately. Let me know your new faves in the comments down below. Please go and check out all of the other dolls in this collab from I Could Do That DIY, The Dolly Geek, Kiro's Workshop, Witchy Pink, His Name is Akin, Valkyrie's World, and the Hatter Dolls. Everyone has done a fantastic job. Look at them! Look at all of these amazing dolls! And I love how all of our dolls look together. They look so cool. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and click the bell icon and turn on all notifications so you'll know whenever I post a new video. All of my socials will be linked down below. I'm most active on Instagram, and if you really like what I do and you want to buy me a coffee or help me afford more supplies, you can find a link to my Ko-fi tip jar down in the description, or you can click the super thanks button right below this video. And until next time, bye!